Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is the news on Tuesday the 15th of August. There's no Jay Motti today because he is on holiday, but that doesn't mean we haven't got lots of big news. We've got updates on Mason Greenwood, a supposed take. Sorry, there's some issue with the sound. Are we all right now? A supposed U-turn from Manchester United. We'll get into that on the decision-making process on exactly if and when Mason Greenwood is coming back. We'll bring you the latest there. Seemingly and unsurprisingly, United are all over the place when it comes to making decisions, not for the first time. We've also got some very breaking news, and I'm going to start with this actually, on Harry Maguire. Now, the news was going to be the report from last night about West Ham growing slightly weary and slightly bored of this chase of Harry Maguire after there's not been any updates for a while. We've since seen an update this morning at 17 minutes past 10, so less than 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, that Harry Maguire's move to West Ham is off. And this is coming from The Guardian, reliable source, Jacob Steinberg. It says on the left, we can't see it there, but it's slightly to the left of the screen. It says, exclusive by Jacob Steinberg. So he's running this. This is his story. West Ham's move for Harry Maguire off after they grow tired of waiting. Harry Maguire's move to 30 million move to West Ham has collapsed after the club grew tired of waiting for the defender to agree his exit from Manchester United. Although there is a chance the deal could be revived. Right, so it's not off then, is it? First of all, I'm only reading this for the first time because this story is so new and we've been setting up. However, although there is a chance the deal could be revived, it's not going ahead at the moment. We need to get into this, but get your thoughts in the comments. West Ham have grown frustrated over the delay and are looking at alternative options in central defence. That was the news that we had already from the Telegraph last night, that they're looking elsewhere. They're keeping the door open for other options. Then obviously Jacob Steinberg has gone one step further and said that the deal is off. Maguire had settled personal terms with West Ham, but the club had been waiting for the England international to agree a payoff from Manchester United. The 30-year-old received a considerable salary increase as a result of United qualifying for the Champions League and would be on less money at West Ham. He is thought to want about £7 million to leave Old Trafford. More details soon. So maybe this line here about the deal... there is a chance the deal could be revived. Maybe that line is more of a sort of covering your back in terms of it's possible that it comes back. There's no contract signed saying we will not sign Harry Maguire. Right, send that into the lawyers. Theoretically it could happen, but it sounds as though West Ham have grown tired of waiting for United and Maguire to sort this deal out, and they've pulled the plug, which I think is ridiculous. Let's get some of the comments. PT says, morning Joe, morning. Alex Morris says, morning Joe. What are your thoughts on these rumours of the clubs being sold for 7.3 billion? It seems just a rumour, to be honest. What was it, the Cardiff chairman or someone related to Cardiff City? How would he know? And also, why has it gone from 6 billion to 7 billion? That's a big jump. I don't necessarily believe that that's happening. Dean Irving says Maguire's ego is going to cost him. He thinks he's untouchable and is asking far too much of a payoff. Greenwood out as well. Separate points. Part of me understands it, to be honest. United signed this contract with him where he gets this amount of money when he wins games. Like if you got a job, let's say your dream job at, I don't know, let's just say in sort of this. Well, let's say someone gets a job as the main presenter on Sky Sports News or whatever, and that's their dream job. They've always wanted to be on Sky Sports News. They're not really favoured. The viewers don't really love them. They're not necessarily doing a good job, but they've signed a 2-year contract. Then a year into that contract, Sky go, you can sort of see people don't really like watching you. I know we've signed this 2-year contract, but we want you to go and work for your local TV channel instead. The wages are shit, and there's no reason for you to accept it other than you probably want to be on telly, don't you? Like, you could understand it where you might go, well, actually, this was my dream job. I want to work for you. And also, why would I go from a big team to a lesser team and lose half the money every week as well? You can see why there is some conversation to be had there. People don't just quit a job and go and work for a shitter company on less money just because their employer wants them to. If you've signed a contract, people talk about sort of loyalty in football and all that. You should be loyal to your contracts. You should, it's not just about doing what the club want all the time. And this isn't really particularly a defence of Maguire. I think this in any situation like this, you think, well, yeah, I understand that people's career means that he probably wants to play every week. So there's a reason for him to move to West Ham. But let's not forget he's moving to a team that never gets in the Champions League, rarely gets in the Europa League. I know they won the Conference League, so that was good. But you're going to play for a worse team with worse prospects on less money, and you're expected to just be happy with that. I do understand why, there's a conversation to be had there. The details of that conversation, you would hope, could be slightly smoother than they are, and to the point where this deal with West Ham looks like it's off. That is slightly annoying. And obviously, it's a player that United need to get rid of. He's not good enough for the style of play that United want to play, and he's worth a bit of money, so it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's a shame. It looks as though Harry Maguire to West Ham is off, according to Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian, which again, The Guardian is usually pretty reputable. Get your thoughts in. Ahmed says, put him in the reserves the whole season if he doesn't go by the end of the transfer window. But even if you just looking at it from a punishment perspective, if you just you only care about Man United and you don't care about Harry Maguire, that doesn't help Man United, because if we want to get the money for him, if we need to sell him to buy new players, which seems to be the rumour, you want to be able to sell him for as much as possible. If he's played in the reserves for 12 months, runs down another year of his contract, has played no first team football, what was a £30 million player is probably going to be an £8 million player. That hurts United to do that. I understand it from a punishment perspective, but I think financially it doesn't really make any sense to do that. Bradley says, why have we sold Kovar? I don't think he was going to get any game time. Maguire and Henderson need to be thrown out. I already know the leaks and rat behaviour they're planning. I love that. Is that because you're in the WhatsApp group with them? It's Knights from the comments. Harry Maguire and Dean Henderson all in a WhatsApp group, and he just can't believe how ratty they are in there. I love that. Miller says, morning, Jay. Morning. Should we move on to our next story then? This is the Mason Greenwood. We've got two different stories here. One is talking about this so-called U-turn. So this is from the Mirror. And they've said, Manchester United Chiefs perform Mason Greenwood U-turn after players targeted online by fans. So it says here, Manchester United's decision on Mason Greenwood's future will be based on the club's investigation, not the opinion of the women's team. Now, I'll come back to this, but I've got a feeling that headline wasn't written by the bloke writing the story, which is typically the case, to be fair. Usually they're two different people. In the era of newspapers not making quite as much money, sometimes the author of an article will write their own headline to save money on a headline writer, but typically that's not the case. And if you actually read this article, it doesn't really say there's been a U-turn. It almost says, despite popular belief. So we'll read it with that lens. Manchester United's decision on Mason Greenwood's future will be based on the club's investigation, not the opinion of the women's team. Greenwood, 21, had charges of attempted rape, engaging in controlling and coercive behaviour, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm, dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service in February. Since then, United have been conducting an internal investigation, discussing the prospect of Greenwood's return with their footballing department, key stakeholders and sponsors. Right, so this is the bit where we're actually getting to the details here. United had wanted to make a decision before the Premier League opener against Wolves, but that timeline has now changed. Why, we don't know. It had emerged last week that as part of their investigation, the board would also consult players from the women's team, right? However, a number of United players who are away with the Women's World Cup were subsequently targeted on social media, with fans petitioning for them to give the green light for Greenwood's return. First of all, fuck off. Harassing players, harassing people to make a decision that is so clearly morally sort of weighted. It's so heavily charged. It's such a decision that is a personal thing to anyone, that the idea of petitioning for something like that is absolutely obscene. And could you not have any less sense of sensibility and sensitivity around a situation to be doing that? Like, regardless of what you think, leave people alone on stuff like this. It's just ridiculous. I mean, on anything. the idea of putting pressure on people for anything really is slightly nauseating. But when it's something as sensitive and as personal as this, anyone who's doing that is just an absolute dickhead, and there is no two ways about it. England trio Mary Earps, Katie Zellum and Ella Toone were all targeted on their personal accounts and also in a post on United's official women's page on Instagram congratulating the Lionesses on their quarter-final win. The Athletic now reports that while United will inform the women's team on the decision and seek feedback, their opinion will not dictate the outcome of the investigation. United maintain the decision will instead be made by Chief Executive Richard Arnold once the decision has been completed and facts have been established, although there may now be no resolution until September. So have they actually made a U-turn? Or are they just, is it more of a clarification? It seems to me that actually, instead of a U-turn of saying, oh, you know, we'll let the women's team decide, and then going, actually, we won't, it seems as though there was news that they might let the women's team have a say, and they have now clarified that it won't be that, it will be, we will share our information, we'll share our decision with the women's team and other people before releasing it, because, and I hope that's the case, because the idea that all of these people, and most of them being men, let's be honest, on United's board level, at the sort of senior level for Manchester United, most of the people that work there are men. They've all had 6 months or 9 months or 18 months really, because we've known about this situation for 18 months, and then since February, that's another 6 months. The idea that they've had 6 months to come up with a decision, and then last second they go, we'll let the women's team decide, as though, only women can be sort of morally sound. You know, we're men, so we're obviously going to back Mason. That's fucking ridiculous, first of all. And secondly, that you would put the pressure on what has always been a sort of afterthought of a part of Manchester United. We didn't even have a women's team until about 3 years ago. We did, and then we got rid of it, and then we brought another one back in. We've seen some of the conditions that the women's team have trained in over the last few years. The idea that we're now going to put this team that is already targeted a lot online by trolls and dickheads who sort of have to make the point every 2 seconds that women's football isn't quite at the level of men's football, despite it having 130 years of a sort of less time to develop. All of these things, we're now going to put the pressure of this decision on them as well. If that was ever the idea, it is absolutely scandalous that United would do that, or even that they would let that story be ran, because what a position to put the women's team in. Absolutely ridiculous. And have some fucking backbone yourself to make a sound decision here, rather than going, this women's team that already gets a shitload of stick all the time, we're now going to give them this decision that is so heated and highly debated. That was a ridiculous idea that could ever be the case. Seemingly, it isn't the case, which is good. And it should be down to, the people who are in charge of making footballing and non-footballing decisions for the men's team, not the women's team. It's almost like we've gone, well, we know the women won't like it because they're actually mentally sound, but we all think it's fine. What is this? What is this? It's just ridiculous. Anyway, it seems as though that's not the case, and the decision, which is now 6 months in the making, as we've said, will trundle on. And I've got a feeling personally, and again, this is not in the article, this is my opinion, is that United are waiting for the window to end so they can go, we didn't sell him, but that was because the investigation was still ongoing, so we hadn't decided if we were going to sell him or not. So, the window's short, we can't get rid of him now. I guess we'll have to play him. Like, how can we not come up with it? What is another week going to do? What information have they received in the last week that has changed the complexion of this Mason Greenwood situation? We know what the situation is. It feels to me as though they've decided they want him to stay, and they are building a sort of docket of a file of all the ways we're going to reintroduce him and make it seem like it's a good idea. Because otherwise you would just say he's for sale. We've got 2 weeks left of the window. If he's not going to play, surely he's leaving. And now we've got 2 weeks to sell a player who, we're bad at selling players at the best of times, let alone one that is on such a sort of career knife edge. Like, it doesn't seem to me like we're trying to sell him or that we want to sell him. I think we're going to let the window end and the investigation's still ongoing. And then as soon as the window ends, we go, we've completed the investigation. Oh, the window's ended. We can't sell him. I guess we'll have to play him. None of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense to me whatsoever. Sparrow, don't care what you think. Well, why do you watch us then? Why do you watch us if you don't care? Regardless of what you think, this needs sorting out, and it's another sort of blot on United's copybook, if that's even the phrase, that we can't get this done in a timely manner. Like, why is it taking this long? Why is everything we do take too long, wait slightly too long, can't make our minds up, can't sort this out, can't sort that out? It's just ridiculous. You've had 6 months, you've had the evidence in front of you for 18 months. You've had the resolution of the case or the resolution of the situation in front of you for 6 months, and we still can't come up with a decision. What fucking decision makers we've got. Jesus Christ. Amadou Onana, let's move on. Colin Coupleditch says, I reread the transcript of the leaked audio last night. Awful stuff. I hope for everyone's sake Greenwood leaves. And regardless of what you think, maybe do refresh yourself with that transcript, because I did the same thing again the other day, and it's sort of almost worse than I remembered. Anyway. Manchester United approach Everton for Amadou Onana in midfield hunt. Everton reluctant to sell the 21-year-old after one season. United would need to bid at least 50 million to stand a chance. I can't. Just what is going on? Man United's search for midfield reinforcements has led them to approach Everton about a deal for Amadou Onana. Erik ten Hag is keen to address his team's lack of physicality and has turned his focus to bringing in a commanding central midfielder. United are yet to make progress in their pursuit of Fiorentina's Sofian Amrabat. Everton are reluctant to lose Onana, who joined for Lille for 33 million, and insist they are not under financial pressure to make a sale. The Belgian is a key player for Sean Dyche, and the club hope to hold on to the 21-year-old for at least another year. It would take a bid of at least 50 million to convince Everton to sell. They would be entitled to demand even more. Would they? What do you mean they would be entitled? Who's this? Everton's mum writing the article. Well, you're entitled to even more than that. Look how much that Enzo went for. What? Fuck off. They're not. Just because one midfielder goes for this doesn't mean all midfielders are worth the same money. What does that mean? You know what? You're entitled to even more than that. When my mate crashed his car, he actually got $6,000 for it. So the fact that you're only asking for 2, if anything, you're underselling yourself. Ridiculous. So United want Onana. It doesn't, reading through the article, if we just go back up to the top, Ethan, it doesn't really, or to the actual body, it doesn't hit me as there's anything actually happening here. Approach Everton about a deal. I mean, obviously there's something happening, but it's not particularly advanced whatsoever by the sound of this. We've approached them, and Everton have said we're reluctant to sell him. We don't need to sell him. We want 50 million quid at least. I think this one's still a while off. I do see the point about some physicality in midfield or just through the team generally. We do sort of lack a little bit of athleticism through the team. I think you saw Casemiro yesterday. I don't know if it's just a tiredness thing, but he looked very leggy. Even Varane, who was probably one of the players who was exposed the least physically. We know that he struggles with injuries. I think Rasmus Højlund will add some athleticism to the team because he's got that explosion and that acceleration. But there's a little bit of a lack of physicality in the team, isn't there? I wonder if that's why we've been slightly reluctant to get rid of Scott McTominay. Because if nothing else, he's, a tireless runner who's 6'3" and can get his body in the way. Maybe we're looking for something similar with Onana, but a bit more technical quality. Although, from what I've seen from him, I wouldn't put technical quality at the top of his list of attributes. But he's a very young player, and I'm sure he's improving. Mr. Nikos says Onana would be a great signing. There you go. Marcus says we need both Casemiro and Amrabat pivot this season. Single pivot doesn't work. It certainly didn't work very well yesterday. BMW Racing says, was Martinez injured or just off because of the yellow card? He was injured. Apparently he had some sort of ankle, either tendon or ligament, I think tendon pain, Ten Hag said. He said it shouldn't be much of an issue, but it's something they wanted to keep an eye on. So yeah, it was an injury-based substitution at the weekend, but Ten Hag was very much sort of playing it down. So I don't think that there's anything too much to worry about there. Let's move on then. Pavard. There you go. This is the story. The story is Benjamin Pavard's former France teammate Raphael Varane scored a goal and Pavard commented on it. But, you know, could mean more than that, couldn't it? Also, here's the thing, actually, because this was Varane's post, was it? It wasn't United's post, was it? I think it should say in the article if we scroll up. Manchester United has commented on Varane's Instagram post. There you go. So it was Varane's post even. It wasn't even United's post talking about Varane. Basically, a bloke has commented on his mate's Instagram. And it means he's signing for United. United obviously have approached Bayern Munich and are keen on Pavard. Sorry. But to me, maybe he knows what he's doing a little bit, Pavard. Maybe he's sort of thinking, I'll put a couple of fire emojis. People are going to like that. People are going to see it. But I don't think it's a lot more than, you know, if your mate scored a wonder goal at five-a-side, you might comment on that post. It doesn't mean you're going to join his five-a-side team. First of all, they're shit. And second of all, my ankle hurts. So we'll see. But Pavard has commented on Varane's Instagram post, and it's meant that United fans are going crazy. Right, that's going to be all from me. Yeah, a little bit of a wrap-up then. Maguire, looks like that deal to West Ham is off after United and Maguire are struggling to find a deal for compensation for the missed wages that Maguire will get from taking such a big wage cut. There's also this update on Mason Greenwood, like we said, a U-turn from Manchester United supposedly, but actually it seems more like clarification on the fact that they're not going to just be leaving the decision up to the women's team, which was never a good idea if they even had it as an idea. And obviously there as well, Pavard, United interested, and he seems to be certainly flirting or maybe consciously putting the feelers out there and seeing what United fans think of him. But we're back this afternoon. We should have an interview with Ben Jacobs coming out this afternoon as well. And also the return of Premier League Piss Take is coming, so make sure you check that out. United have won, Chelsea have drawn, Liverpool have drawn, Arsenal are still shit, so let's not worry about them. We'll see you in a bit.